Some movies get dismissed as fantasy until reality catches up. In part 1, we looked at 8 movies that turned out to be more documentary than fiction. This is part 2, and these next 8 films might be even harder to shake off. The Matrix, 1999. Are we living in a simulated reality? Maybe, probably. But the question isn't new. Plato imagined prisoners mistaking shadows for reality, and Descartes proposed a demon could be fabricating everything we experience. The 1999 film arrived just as the question started getting scientific traction. In 2003, Oxford philosopher Nick Bostrom argued that if any civilization becomes advanced enough to simulate their ancestors, they'd create thousands of such simulations, and the odds you're in the original reality become vanishingly small.
Born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
Physicist James Gates found error-correcting codes embedded in the equations of supersymmetry, the same codes that make web browsers work. Then there's the observer effect. Particles behave differently when measured versus unmeasured, as if reality only renders what's being watched. But that's only part of the equation. And whether the Wachowskis knew it or not, they were asking a question real physicists are still trying to answer. Don't Look Up, 2021.
The thing of it is we really did have everything, didn't we?
Funny man Adam McKay writes and directs this cautionary tale about 2 astronomers who discover a comet on a collision course with Earth and have 6 months to convince anyone to care. McKay said the film came from his growing terror about climate change after reading David Wallace Wells's book, The Uninhabitable Earth. He started talking to climate scientists and kept looking for good news, but everything he heard was worse than what mainstream media was reporting. While venting his frustration to journalist David Sirota made an offhand joke. It's like a giant comet is about to hit Earth and no one cares.
And I think we're all gonna die!
The climate change threat is real, but the comet can be a stand-in for any situation where clear scientific truth gets drowned out by politics, corporate interests, and a media ecosystem that treats everything like entertainment. Scientists have the data. The threat is real, and nobody wants to hear it because it's inconvenient, boring, or bad for business. Climate scientist Peter Kalmus called the film the most accurate depiction of society's non-response to climate breakdown he'd ever seen. That's not a compliment to the film. That's an indictment of everything else. RoboCop, 1987. RoboCop depicts a near-future Detroit where the police force has been privatized by a corporation more interested in profit than public safety. Omni Consumer Products deliberately underfunds the cops to justify replacing them with machines, and one executive openly admits it doesn't matter if their robot works because they've already locked in contracts for spare parts. Peter Weller plays Alex Murphy, the murdered cop who's resurrected by OCP as RoboCop. The criminals Murphy gets killed trying to stop are secretly working with OCP leadership, creating the very problem the corporation sells itself as the solution to. Screenwriter Edward Neumeier said he wanted to show industrial decline in America, and co-writer Michael Miner was explicitly critical of Reagan-era privatization. Since 1996, the federal 1033 program has transferred over $7 billion worth of military equipment to local police departments, including 60,000 military-grade rifles and 1,500 combat-ready trucks and tanks. The film imagined a future where public services get privatized, police get militarized, and corporations profit from the problems they help create. That future arrived, and nobody had to build a cyborg to make it happen.
Your contacts
Her,
Oh, you have a lot of contacts.
2013.
Very popular.
Really? Does this mean you actually have friends?
Director Spike Jonze got the idea in the early 2000s after reading about a website that let you instant message with an AI. For the first 20 seconds, he said it had this real buzz, and then it quickly fell apart. His film imagines what happens when the AI keeps learning and the connection keeps deepening. Joaquin Phoenix plays Theodore Twombly, a sensitive introvert who purchases a new operating system named Samantha, voiced by Scarlett Johansson.
Hello, I'm here.
Oh. Hi.
They develop feelings and fall in love. Production designer K.K. Barrett built a future that deliberately avoided dystopia, swapping the cold blues and greens of typical sci-fi for warm yellows, golds, and soft reds. The technology recedes into the background, screens replaced by small earpieces, and nothing is designed to look advanced or draw attention to itself. It's a comfortable future where everything you want is there for you, except for solutions to the human dilemma of how we get close to each other and how we stay close. But that dilemma is now a growth industry. Between 2022 and 2025, the number of AI companion apps surged 700%. Millions of people are now in relationships with software that listens without judgment, responds without fatigue, and never leaves. The film asked whether that kind of connection could be real. The answer, for a lot of people, turned out to be yes. If you love cinema and you like videos like these, give us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. We've got plenty more waiting for you behind the velvet curtain. Minority Report, 2002. Based on a Philip K. Dick story from 1956, Steven Spielberg wanted the future in Minority Report to feel plausible rather than fantastical. Before production, he gathered 15 experts, including architects, computer scientists, futurists, and journalists. Everyone at that meeting told him the same thing. Privacy is a diminishing commodity that will soon be thrown right out the window. The technology enables safety. The murder rate in DC drops to 0. But it also enables total surveillance and the punishment of people for crimes they haven't actually committed. That tension is the film's real subject, not whether the technology works, but what kind of society it creates. Gesture-based computer interfaces, targeted advertising, biometric identification, autonomous vehicles, voice-controlled homes, all of it has arrived more or less as the film depicts. The one thing that hasn't fully arrived is arresting people before they commit crimes, though predictive policing algorithms are trying. The film understood something important about the relationship between technology and power. The same tools that make you safer also make you controllable, and the people who control the tools get to decide which one matters more. Wag the Dog, 1997. Barry Levinson directed this political satire about a president caught in a sex scandal 2 weeks before an election, and the spin doctor who manufactures a fake war to distract the public. Robert De Niro plays Conrad Breen, a political fixer who arrives at the White House after the president is accused of making advances on an underage girl in the Oval Office. His solution is to change the story by inventing a bigger one, so he hires a Hollywood producer named Stanley Motz, played by Dustin Hoffman. Together they fabricate a war with Albania, complete with fake news footage, patriotic theme songs, and a manufactured POW hero. The film released on Christmas Day, 1997. 1 month later, news of the Clinton-Lewinsky scandal broke. 8 months after that, Clinton ordered cruise missile strikes on targets in Afghanistan and Sudan, on the exact day Monica Lewinsky was scheduled to testify before a grand jury. Fast forward 30 years, and Donald Trump has gone to war with Iran while distracting from the Epstein files. If you think the timing is coincidental, the film has a bridge in Albania to sell you. The machinery of distraction isn't new. The only thing that changes is who's operating it. V for Vendetta, 2005. Based on Alan Moore's graphic novel, the story follows a masked revolutionary who wages war against a fascist government that has seized control of Britain through fear, surveillance, and the systematic persecution of anyone deemed undesirable. The Wachowskis wrote the screenplay, adapting it from the graphic novel and updating the setting. The movie depicts how the Norse Fire Party came to power. A deadly virus sweeps through the country, and the government responds with fear and promises of security. The state-controlled media broadcasts a single narrative, and dissent is treated as terrorism. The population accepts it because they've been told the alternative is chaos and death. The film is set in 2020, which turned out to be a coincidence so precise it almost feels like a joke. But the machinery it depicts, the way a government can exploit crisis to consolidate power, the way propaganda can make citizens demand their own oppression, none of that required a crystal ball. It just required paying attention to how these things have always worked, and trusting that they would work the same way again. Children of Men, 2006. No child has been born anywhere on Earth in 18 years. The world's youngest person, an 18-year-old celebrity named Baby Diego, is stabbed to death in a bar fight, and the news plays on every screen while people weep in the streets. That's the opening of Children of Men, Alfonso Cuarón's dystopian thriller, and it only gets bleaker from there. Clive Owen plays Theo Farron, a burned-out bureaucrat who drinks through his days until he's pulled into a mission to protect a young refugee woman who has somehow become pregnant. Michael Caine plays his old friend Jasper, a former political cartoonist hiding in the woods with his catatonic wife, cracking jokes and growing hippie lettuce, because what else is there to do when the species is dying? The film shows how a society normalizes brutality by doing it gradually, one small cruelty at a time, until the unthinkable becomes bureaucratic procedure. The infertility is science fiction. The rest of it, the closed borders, the detention centers, the refugees treated as less than human, the despair that settles in when people stop believing things can get better, none of that required much imagination at all.